Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Curious Realms continuing coverage of the 2024 Texas Bigfoot Conference right here.
That's where we're at. That's where we're at.
Right here in Jefferson, Texas. We have the great pleasure of being joined by researcher and host of Texas Front Porch, Tex Wesson. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Last time I saw you was actually Bigfoot Michigan Rob, correct? Were we on there together, I believe?
Yeah,
yeah. And, you know, you have a very popular show, tons of stories. You do tons of in-the-field investigation.
Yeah.
You're actively getting ready to go out on investigation soon. I don't want you to give away too much, but give us a little bit about what that upcoming investigation's about and what you're trying to get into, Wes.
Well, I'm going next weekend. I'm letting everybody know with this one because if they want to join, they can, you know. But I'm going to Brown Springs next Sunday and Monday and just bump around there for, you know, a night or two. But the big one is in November. It's at an undisclosed location, and it's a Dogman investigation that we got requested to do.
Okay.
People came to us for help, and it's been a long time in the making because we've had to we got to sign waivers and everything to go on the property.
Yeah.
It's almost 2,000 acres of private property that nobody lives on. So it's every researcher's dream.
Yeah, it's a remarkable opportunity for certain.
And we're going to be out there a week.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is a good extensive investigation. And, you know, let's get into this topic because it's one that I think cover enough on my show, and that's Dogman. The idea of the phenomenon of Dogman, and honestly, the very recent phenomenon of Dogman. It's not like, and that's something that I was really talking with my brother about last night. He's kind of new to some of the communities, and he asked me, like, what's the whole Dogman thing about? And I started getting into it with him, and I was like, it's very fascinating because once again, very new phenomenon. It's not like Sasquatch or something that goes back hundreds of years, goes into native folklore, things like that.
Well, actually, it does.
Oh, okay. Well, get into that a little bit.
Well, the thing about it is the term Dogman is very recent.
Okay.
But the creature itself has been around for thousands of years. Depending on who you talk to and what their opinion is, we're talking Anubis.
Okay.
So, and there's, you know, you get the tales of the lion-headed warriors and that type of thing, jaguar warriors. All that kind of points to this phenomenon.
Interesting.
Okay. A lot of pre-flood stuff. It appears that they were in greater numbers. And I have a loose, I don't even know if we can call it a theory or a thought process, I guess you call it. That pre-flood, the way these things are looked at and they're worshipped as gods.
Yeah.
They're freaking hyper intelligent and all this kind of stuff. They're just extremely, you know, vicious warriors. And their numbers are extensive. Well, the flood happens. Okay, I think a few of these things survived.
Okay. And
what we're seeing now is basically a dumbed-down version of what we had in the past.
Interesting.
Because they and all the different looks and descriptions and even behaviors could be because of post-flood. In order to basically save their species, they had to interbreed with dogs and wolves and coyotes and, you know, maybe even people. I don't know.
Sure. And you know, once again, the idea of chimeric beings, the mix of human and animal goes back, for millennia. Yeah. And I had never even honestly made those two connections because most of, I guess, what I've heard in the communities, things like that, seem very spiritually oriented, much more in the realm of something paranormal than something, I guess, what we would deem as cryptid, so to speak.
Right.
You know, like and I guess, yes, you know, if you're tying it to that concept of pre-flood, stuff like that, then yes, it would fall in the cryptid realm. It would fall
I think
in,
it does.
It would fall in the realm of, you know, a lost species or one unlimited reproducing number.
Right. And I get asked a lot of times, well, do you think they do they breed like dogs? If they bred like dogs,
we'd have a whole lot more.
Oh yeah, they'd outnumber the Bigfoot. They evidently don't, because the reports are less than the Bigfoot. You know, so, and we're just not seeing the numbers. I've heard people talk about how they've seen them with Bigfoot, leading Bigfoot. I've heard of pups being in the same nest with baby Bigfoot. I don't know.
There are the stories of Dogman units helping hunt Bigfoot with the government. I mean, it's literally a rainbow.
Oh, it is.
Of explanations when it comes to Dogman and hypotheses when it comes to it.
I personally think that they're like any other two apex predators.
Okay.
They tolerate each other, because the chance, say if they get into a fight, all it takes is a small injury.
Yeah.
You know.
That is something that we were literally just talking with Ryan Edwards about, that we bring up pretty regularly on the show when you're talking Bigfoot, diet, things like that. Because you hear stories of like, oh, you know, look at this deer that the Bigfoot killed. And it's like, well, you know, when you get into biology and survival, it's pretty rare that an animal takes on an animal its own size unless it's in a pack.
Right.
You know, like lions will absolutely take on an ox, but not by themselves.
Right.
With 2 or 3 other lions, where the chance of injury for any of them is then reduced. You know, because even though they're animals, they aren't stupid. They've been here for millions of years.
Well, it's the same thing with a coyote.
Yeah.
A coyote, and he'll, you know. Yeah. But you get a pack of hungry coyotes and you're out there by yourself, you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
And they know it.
Yes.
You know, and that's when they become dangerous. But, it's, I don't see, and it's like anything else in the animal kingdom. Bluff is a big part of it.
Huge part.
Okay?
Yeah, threat display.
They would rather bluff than fight.
Yeah.
Because, one, they can't spare the energy. Number 2, they risk an injury.
Yeah.
You know, or death. You know, fast or slow.
Yeah.
But I think they tolerate each other. There may be instances where they work together. I don't know.
Well, and even the concept, you know, once again, bringing it back pre-flood, the idea that, you know, well, look at what happened last time we interfered with humanity. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should just kind of be along the side of it, instead of fully engaged.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that I've brought up numerous times, and especially if you're thinking about these along the lines of Anubis, other godlike creatures, things like that, is the idea that perhaps these beings are using the trope of our mind as far as what we would be comfortable seeing.
Right.
You know, something that like, well, you know, if they saw me in my true form, it would send them into shock, but they would believe in this, so that would be allowable to their mind.
Well, you know, and I don't want to jump into the whole religion thing.
It's okay.
But because, you know, everybody's...
It's a deep and thick and personal pot.
It is. And relationship with God is a very personal one.
That's right.
I don't try to tell anybody what to do with their life or anything. You know, hey, if you're comfortable going to hell, whatever.
That's properly American of you.
I know, right? But when you start talking about these things, inevitably, the religious aspect comes up.
Yeah.
But
well,
I don't think. I think these are something that was put on the earth. I don't think they were created by demons or anything like that. I don't think they're Nephilim or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're of the paranormal realm, the ones I've experienced.
Okay.
There's something else out there, and we've talked about this before. There's something else out there that either mimics these creatures just to get their damn foot in the door with us.
That's right. That's right. The consent.
Yeah.
Open the window for the vampire.
The invitation, and that's
Look
all.
Look at the candy, kid.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And they don't care how they do it, by hook or crook.
Well, because they live by a day, and we talk about this whenever we have Nathaniel Gillis on, talking about demonology and the entities that have been body hopping for millennia.
Right.
The idea of they play by a different set of rules. They do not need to play by the rules in that book. They don't.
I mean,
they play by a pre-existing set of rules that is not in that book.
There's if you take it back to the Fae, there's people that are dear friends of mine that will not put a welcome mat on their front door.
That's right, because it's a consent.
Yeah.
And I say it regularly on the show. I sleep with my phone screen down. It's a black mirror. You have given it consent to bring things into your world through that mirror. So anything sitting on the other side of any black mirror could be like, well, he's perfectly good with that. So I have no TV in my room at night. I sleep with my phone screen down. Things like that. Because, when you're talking about the people of the Fae, and this is something that I love talking about with our friend Jason McLean.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's interesting when you get into Sasquatch lore, and specifically Pacific Northwest Sasquatch lore. The ideas of, don't accept a fish from Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Don't follow them into the woods. You won't come back. Things like that.
Don't whistle.
It's very much the same as the stories of the people of the Fae, where it's like, don't follow the fairies into the woods when they call you. Don't follow the mermaids.
Yeah.
Like when the sirens sing you a song, don't go to their island.
I think what we're dealing with, the Goat Man, Dogman, Bigfoot, Rake, any of those, Mothman, I think they're just Fae by different names.
Yeah.
Because if you look back in the lore of Fae, every one of those is described.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Yeah, when you start looking at brownie, elf, once again, mermaid,
trolls,
are people of
ogres.
The Fae. Yeah. Yeah, precisely. And many ancient cultures did not make a differentiation like that, like we do, where there's a hardline difference. Yeah. And even the idea of, you look at fairy tales, things like that. We paint fairies in a different light modernly.
Oh, yes.
In a very, very different light.
Normally they're very happy-go-lucky.
Yeah. Maybe they're a little mischievous, things like that. But do you hear the stories about them, stealing your baby in the middle of the night anymore? Right? No, Tinkerbell doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And to see these things modernized once again, and even to see the idea of Anubis and other, what other cultures would believe to be a spiritual warrior, being embodied in this very, once again, modernly defined phenomena of Dogman, and once again in what seems to be a very specific region.
Yeah.
You hear, like, we have the Dogman Triangle in Texas.
Yeah.
Things like that. There are a few Dogman sightings around the country. And even around the world, once again,
absolutely.
The idea, King Lupus himself, was a werewolf. That's where it comes from. So the idea of that being a spiritual curse put upon him.
Well, who was the Loch Ness, the guy?
Oh, God, I can't remember.
Saint something.
I want to scream over to King Gerhard right now.
Yeah, right?
Hey, Ken.
But... He was reportedly a werewolf or whatever.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, so many people want to draw a hard line between a werewolf and a dogman.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? I have talked to a lot of people about this.
Yeah.
I've had nobody tell me convincedly
that it's not,
that it's one or the other, or I think we're looking at the same entity.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody that's had a pet Dogman that can sit there and watch it either change or not change.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
and you know, interestingly enough, especially when you look at the Texas Dogman Triangle,
right.
when you start looking at that Midwest area, land of the lakes, things like that, there are two things very much in common. The settling of the French and the settling of the Germans in that area. And both cultures, you know, you look at the Beast of Gevaudan, things like that, both cultures have a werewolf history.
Right.
Both cultures have these stories of that coming from, even, I'm Cajun. We have the Rougarou, man.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You know what's odd about the Beast of Gevaudan is if you look at the research, when they sent the army out to kill him, that's not exactly what they did. They drove the wolves to extinction.
Yeah.
And when they did that, these sightings quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but at the same token,
that could be a perfectly normal explanation.
Absolutely, perfectly logical explanation for us now who know of extinction.
Right.
Things like that. You know, nobody back then knew, like, well, we've hunted these animals to extinction in the localized
and that's
area.
a bad thing.
Yeah. You know, like, well, now the rabbits are going to be rampant.
Yeah.
You know, not really something that they knew back in the early 1700s when these things are happening. Yeah, precisely. And you know, the idea that these stories come over with settlers. And they're spiritual stories. They're stories that are tied to especially things like Rougarou. You know, you're talking about things like sins of the fathers cause it. Things
100-day
like that.
cursed or something like that.
Yeah. You know, the idea that, you know, this curse of being haunted by one is passed down through family, that kind of thing. It's fascinating to see how those cultures overlap in the areas of Dogman Triangle and in the Midwest. You know, they're very German rich, very French rich. And it's interesting to see how those traditions have moved forward and have, once again, kind of metastasized into what is now.
Yeah, I've recently, me and Monica Rollins have been batting this back and forth. Neither one of us think, and I think I've pretty much dragged the rest of the team down this rabbit hole with me, that the whole werewolf transformation thing, I don't think it's possible unless there is a spiritual aspect to it.
Yeah.
And I think that was very, very rare in the cases like we were talking about.
Yeah, yeah. King Lycan, things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very rare happenstances. And then you have these Dogman creatures where I think are totally different. Okay? Because I don't think the human body or mind could stand up to the transformation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be you're talking about joints relocating, bones popping, you know, teeth growing, the whole 9 yards. Have you ever had a toothache?
Yeah. Yes.
That almost drive you mad.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a full
your whole jowl moving and
yeah.
relocating and
and
changing form?
Yeah. And your skin peeling off and hair poking out. I don't see that physically possible. You know, I think there has to be some divine intervention there of some kind. And I think most of it was either the man upstairs cursing somebody and this is what you're going to do, or saving somebody like he did that one saint and turning back. Because I do believe in that kind of power.
Sure.
In the same breath, and I mean, this is where it gets convoluted.
It gets thick quick, brother.
It does. I mean, in the same breath, you're talking about, you know, well, I don't, you know, I think these things are purely physical, blah, blah, blah. Well, how can you have that attitude, but this attitude over here?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know, because I'm not going to say any of this stuff isn't possible.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I haven't seen evidence personally to convince me of anything else, that they are physical. And we've talked about, much like the Fae, we've talked about these things getting an invitation where you're out there looking for Bigfoot.
Or looking for them.
Yeah. If you're out there looking for Dogman or Bigfoot or whatever, and these entities know this, and they're like, oh, like you said a while ago, oh, they'll accept me as this.
Yeah.
And that's how they get their foot in the door.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's maybe what's going on with the whole mind speak thing.
Well, and
it worries me.
Yeah, because when you start looking at it specifically, mind speak is also used with certain alien races.
Yeah.
You know, and I won't deny somebody's mind speak with an animal, but it is fascinating to explore that and to explore the idea that perhaps these things that are using this common modality of communication are actively the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are the imposter.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Whereas, yes, there is 80% of what we're seeing in our skies is utterly known technology to contractors, not to us.
Right.
There's probably a good 10% out there that we don't know.
Right.
And maybe a good 3 to 5% that's something else in the guise of.
Yeah.
You know?
I think any decent paranormal researcher, cryptid researcher, whatever, has to have the ability to go what if.
Yeah. Well, that's just science.
Yeah.
Science, period. Like I've got the scientific method right here, and the second part is research the topic area and then hypothesis.
Yeah.
The third step is what if.
Right.
Literally, the third step of science is what if, and you're allowed to what if any question you want based upon that data you gather during research.
Which is funny because the process that mainstream science lives by, supposedly,
they totally diverse
they chunk it in the trash when it's convenient for them.
Yeah. And that's just it. You know, that's something with curious research that I have really, really tried to spearhead is the idea that, like, from both sides, we need to be ready to meet in the middle.
Yeah.
You as a scientist need to be ready to listen to the 5% quandary.
Yeah.
You know, like I know a lot of people in communities are upset about that definition of UAP that came across a couple years ago. But what is really funny is the change of attitude of mainstream science since the redefinition to phenomena.
Yeah.
Because, well, you have to define the phenomena in science.
Right.
So you have a 5% deviation in this formula. What phenomena is causing the 5% deviation?
Right.
Like, by definition in science, you have to find the phenomena. So, yeah, I'm okay. Like, if it takes that to pull it out of a box named Kleenex, where we've thrown everything that's called a facial tissue, of which there are 1,000 products, and we've now said, no, you're all Kleenex now.
Yeah.
You know, well, not all Kleenex has aloe. Not all Kleenex has a pattern on it. You know, like there's 1,000 different things out there that we're just throwing into a catch-all, and science doesn't like a catch-all. It likes categorization of data.
Right.
You know, so, yeah, we need to, as people in the field, as people out doing research, like you're getting ready to do in Land of the Lakes and stuff like that, you need to prepare your data to meet that.
Yeah, that's another thing that I was going to bring up next year. I'll be going up to Land Between the Lakes.
Yeah.
I've never been up there.
Wow.
And I've got a lot of people on my team and everybody else that is like, you can't do what you want to do. I'm like, yeah, I can. Because it hasn't been done. It needs to be done.
It's incumbent.
And that's a solo investigation.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, you may not come back.
Well,
I may not, but what if I go out there and I get all this data and I come back?
you may not come back from your next fishing trip, man. Does that mean
Exactly.
you're not going to go fishing?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the attitude I have, but my wife not so much. She was livid when she found out that I'd been going to Brown Springs all those years by myself. She didn't know.
Yeah.
She thought I was going out camping with a buddy.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you were in Brown Springs.
Yeah. And you've been going out there by yourself? Yeah. You're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's right after my team grounded me. You know, and they're right. I mean, they're right.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. Well, and that brings up something that we have been big on talking about lately, and that's the idea of team.
Yeah.
And the idea of there is no I-in team. Research does not happen in a vacuum.
No.
You can go out and do all the solo expeditions you want and gather data, but at some point, Tex, you've got to have somebody like a Jason. You've got to have, as I put it, a ride or die. You've got to have somebody who you can trust their opinion, you can value their opinion, and when they tell you this is not, you can trust that.
Right.
When you present them with a hypothesis and they go, well, this, and this may not be, you go, okay, let's rehypothesize.
And my whole thing about solo investigations, because honestly, you don't come back with nothing but stories.
Yeah.
Because you don't have somebody there to validate what it happened.
Yeah.
For me, solo research is strictly for me to have an experience.
Yeah.
And then I bring the team in, and then we can validate stuff.
Yeah.
The sighting that we had, pardon me, burgers.
Yep.
And the sighting that me and Brandy had together was awesome.
Yeah.
Because we were both there, we were both watching this thing, and I mean, we went, you seen that? Oh yeah.
But that's a rare occurrence more than one person on the team sees the same thing.
Exactly.
And even at that
that's
point,
invaluable.
And even at that point, sometimes you don't see the exact same thing.
Yeah, see, that's where the whole paranormal thing comes in.
Yeah, precisely. And the phenomenology behind that, and how your experience, how your filter of experience and even belief in life affect the experience, and that's a lot of the reason why I came up with the data log. It was like, write it down coldly, write it down now as it happens, not an hour when you get back to camp. Right. And you've started processing it through your 9th grade experience and in Boy Scouts and stuff like that, and what your uncle told you and things like that.
I was over the moon when you handed me that because I was going to get one anyway. But it's going out with me in November.
I love it.
And when I get back, and if we have something, I don't know if we have anything.
Yeah.
It may just be a great camping trip.
Yep.
Which is fine too. But if I come back with a full book, me and you're going to have another conversation.
Exactly.
And we can sit here and go, look at this.
Yeah. And, I there are so many people, Wes, or Tex rather, who get so involved with red circles in the world. And I am one of those. Science in me is like more red circles. I want more. Now, you need to be ready to handle the explanation of the red circle.
Well, you brought up an excellent point back when we were on Rob's show together about the red circle. Yeah. I'd never even thought about it that way.
It's a bigger definition of the known quantitative.
It is. But I think there's – I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
But I think the red circle, okay – from your point of view, has a purpose.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the beginning. It's observation. You saw something.
But I think that the way it should be presented is you show somebody a raw photograph.
I believe that as well.
And go, tell me what you see.
Yeah.
And you look, I don't see anything. Okay, let me show you what I saw.
Yeah.
And then
A and B together.
And you ought to be able to look at it. Okay, well, I can see where that, but
I can see where you might. I can see where you might see that.
Right,
and that's just it. Like, as somebody who has spent, I'm almost 50, since the age of 21, working with audio, working with video, working with photos, things like that, recovering photographs. I've spent a lot of my time behind a lens and editing such things. So. You tend to be able to explain a lot of trick of light. You tend to be able to explain a lot of known quantitative in a lens and a chipset, and that's just it. Scientifically, we need to be ready for more red circles, and the people presenting the pictures in the red circles need to be ready for the known quantitative explanation. And the fact of just because it wasn't what you believe your experience was doesn't mean you haven't contributed to the science of narrowing down the unknown.
Right.
which is hugely important.
Right.
You know, like it doesn't subtract from your experience.
No, not at all.
Doesn't subtract from that.
I think that if anybody's going to show a picture to anybody, show them the one without the red circles.
That's right.
First.
Yeah.
You know, because if you show them something with red circles, you've already tainted the evidence.
That's right. That's right. You have already tainted their filter of perception to begin with.
Right.
And that is
we're
a
programmed
beautiful
to pick
point
up
bring
patterns.
up. That's right. That's right.
You know?
It is what has
look at
made us
wallpaper
survive.
And pick out. We could sit here and pick out faces in this right here.
I used to literally, as a server in church, sit and pick out images in the wood of the pews, in the wood patterns, and find images and faces and things like that. Because I was just bored at church.
It's no different
as a 9-year-old.
It's no different. It's no different than picking out kitty cats and fluffy, unicorns and stuff in the clouds.
Exactly.
Same thing.
Exactly. And that's just it. We need to understand the science of our brain, how it works, and also have the open heart and open mind of experience to marry with that.
Right.
And understand that yes, while we should be looking for science, we should be looking for those things. We should not be trying to destroy anybody's experience. We should not be trying to change an experience that has possibly brought them to a new understanding and paradigm of the world around them, which is larger than what it once was.
Absolutely.
You know, what am I going to do? Tell somebody stop expanding your mind?
Right.
Like, that's literally what I'm all about.
And and the thing about it is, that's what frustrates me about mainstream science is the ego gets in the way.
Well, yeah. It's the fact of when the science stops growing, it becomes dogma.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
like,
and
really?
the example I normally give is you've seen my pictures online. I'm a massive astronomy fan. I love my backyard astronomy. My astronomy textbook from 1992 in high school shows Pluto as a planet. My son's planetary chart does not.
There you go.
Science has changed.
Yeah.
So we need to be ready to change with science.
We do.
And we need to be ready to have our data to give to science so we can help change it. So
I really wish that we could get some of these mainstream scientists that would just go follow their own formula and go, what if?
Yeah. If just the first 3 parts were there and we kept with that for the first little bit and let the rest of the pendulum swing through the circle, you'd be surprised what we all might come up with. And that's just it. That's one of the things that I love about people like Ryan Edwards. I quote him all the time with his idea of the 70-year to discovery point. The idea that, like, no, we as Anglos heard of, lowland gorillas.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, those aren't here. Until we finally got interested, then we started looking. And it took us 70 years, but we found them. And we are not scientifically up against that 70-year point of discovery with Sasquatch as far as the West and Anglos being interested in what these other cultures have talked about for millennia, for hundreds of years. We aren't to that point yet. We aren't to that point with UFOs.
Well, see, I think
at least not with like, hey, science is interested in it.
The thing about it is, okay, the government, them, they, whatever you want to call them, science, whatever, have came out and said there are UFOs out there.
And that there are other dimensions.
Yeah.
Up to 8 now.
Right. So, and if you track, how many years did it take from, say, Roswell?
Exactly.
To that point?
Yeah.
Now, superimpose Sasquatch.
Yeah.
The whole thing we were setting up, we went through UFOs. Oh, they were bad. They were always trying to take over. They were all trying to kill us. And then we started getting the friendly ones, and it's like you're trying to the whole desensitization thing.
Yeah. Totally.
And then when they came off of it, I expected the community to blow up. Not a peep.
Yeah.
Everybody was just like, yeah, we knew.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're at. It's tracking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think we're about 10, 20 years behind that with Sasquatch.
Yep.
I think we're going to have disclosure in my lifetime.
I believe so as well. I think we will have, especially now with the new forensic data, the new forensic methods, the idea of being able to get environmental DNA off of stuff, like being able to pull a piece of, pine wood off of it and look for DNA in the wood.
Right.
These new methods, hand alleles, oils, things like that. The massively important and new stuff that is leading down great new roads.
What I don't understand is how many DNA samples have been sent in. Part of it comes back as human. The other part of it comes back unknown. And they just act like it never freaking happened. If you're a true scientist, that's unknown. I need to find out what that is.
Yeah.
Instead of going,
or just the fact
it's just
of it's
tainted DNA. What?
Or just the fact of it's part human and part. Let's explore that part situation. Once
but
again,
they act like it's just no, throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
What?
Well, that's junk DNA. Things like
what the hell is junk DNA?
Yeah.
That's like the little kid that got killed in Kentucky, got drug up a hill 200 yards, and they said it was an unknown canine. Okay, these are the same people that you can send your DNA of your pup that's a Heinz 57, and then they can tell you every breed that's in your dog, and you're telling me you have unknown canine DNA in the lower 48?
Yeah.
I ain't buying it. I ain't buying it.
Yeah, and that's just it. There are things like that pop up that are more than strange, more than curious, and it's fascinating to look at those things. And it's you really do have to take those into the data set. They may need to be culled later. Who knows? But they're part of the data set, and that's something to consider.
What I don't understand is how the general public, even the non-believers, how the general public can look at that and go,
yeah.
How are you not going, what the hell?
Yeah. No, precisely. And there's a lot of that in our world right now where it's interesting to see where a lot of people start scratching their heads and where a lot of people don't.
Yeah. I don't think most people want to believe that these things exist.
And that's just it. Most people, I think, would rather go about their day than to think that, wow, there's something in a dimension that is just adjacent to mine.
Right.
Or that we're basically suds in a bathtub of realities, and that we're adjunctly connected to numerous realities. These are principles of physics and hypotheses and sometimes facts that are out there. And they all need to be considered and taken into it. And it's awesome. And thank you so much for everything that you do with Texas Front Porch, for having these conversations. Thank you so much for sitting down today, man. I appreciate it as always.
You know that.
Absolutely. Let everybody know where they can go to like, follow, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff.
Well, my main stuff is on YouTube. It's Texas Front Porch. That's TEX''S because it's my front porch.
That's right.
And that's on YouTube, but it's also anywhere you can find a podcast.
Yeah.
And we don't just do Bigfoot, paranormal, and Dogman. We have a true crime show.
Yep.
It's called Infamous Minds. The first book, book 1, is due out in November.
Awesome.
It's co-wrote by myself and Danielle Diva.
Okay.
And I'm so excited. It was supposed to be ready for this conference, and it got delayed.
Yeah.
But I'm real. That is another passion of mine. The psychology that goes behind that.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the time. Once again, I appreciate it. While you were online looking for everything from Texas Front Porch and liking and following that, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm, like, follow, subscribe there. You can stop by curiousrealm.com/store. That is where you can buy all of the books, videos, and classes from our guests. That's also where you can get your copy of the Field Observation Guide. If you are a researcher in the field, stop on by, grab one of those. It is a great way to begin preparing your session data and investigation data to meet the world of science. Because while a picture is worth 1,000 words, unless you've been there, you need the 1,000 words. So stay tuned through these quick breaks, everybody. We will be right back with our continuing coverage of the 2024 Texas Bigfoot Conference right here in Jefferson, Texas, right after this. The key to good science is good research. At the heart of good research is a good data set. With the field observation and encounter log from Curious Research, you can easily keep track of your investigative information all in one place, making it easier to review cases and readily see comparisons and contrasts between them. Whether out in the woods squatching, in a back room gathering EVPs, or using high-tech gear to track UFO, UAP activity, this easy-to-carry, pocket-sized scientific data log is the perfect companion for any field researcher. You can find your copy of the Curious Research Field Observation and Encounter Log at Amazon.com or visit the official Curious Realm store at curiousrealm.com/store to reserve your copy for yourself, your family, or a mind that you want to open. That website again is curiousrealm.com/store.